students to Is it too cold? Too cold. Okay, good afternoon. How are you? All good? Okay, it's going to be a long journey. Starting today, probably we might end up in December. December last week, highly likely. And, online people, am I audible? Okay, great. So by the time we complete our syllabus, it's going to be December. And probably in the middle of the course, I'll give you a break of 1 week, right? 3 days, it's going to be a break. That 1 week will be for your consolidation. In the sense, whatever chapters we have covered, you have to study them all. After that, you come for the application classes. Application classes in the sense, so when we look at the syllabus, we have a total of how many chapters? Any idea? 14 plus 14. A total of 28 chapters. Out of these 28 chapters, 17 chapters are the ones which we have to study in a lot of detail. These are the ones which are concepts based. The rest, how many chapters? 11 chapters. These are going to be application based, purely application based. So what we are going to do is, I am first going to divide the entire syllabus into various sections. We are not going to go paper by paper. We're not going to cover paper 1 first and then go to paper 2. We are going to go section by section. I have divided the sections in such a manner that all the correlated chapters are together. Say for example, if I am studying the first chapter is introduction chapter. Related to that, there are 2 more chapters. We'll read that, we'll study that as one section. Okay. And probably by next week or next to next week, you are going to get the material. Okay. So the printing cost, if it's there, you ask them. I don't think there's going to be a printing cost, but I'll provide you the PDF section by section. Okay. So when you get the PDFs, you just may have to add the content apart from class notes and whatever you write in the class, that is class notes, plus whatever you get in the PDF. To that, you have to add only NCERT if something is missing. Otherwise, there is no requirement of any standard book. Last year and before last year, I used to ask the students to go through one of the standard books, either Cicerelli or Barron. This time, I am making sure that the content from both Cicerelli, Barron is included in your classes. I include them in the classes. You have the printed material already. Okay. So add whatever you write in the class notes to the printed material. And then the only work you have is to add NCERT. Still, if you feel like I want to read one text, then You can just study this one. Introduction to Psychology by Robert A. Barron. Only Barron is sufficient. This one book is sufficient. If you still want to add something. Along with this, what is that? NCERT. Which class? Class 11 and class 12. That's it. Nothing more is required. If you have mastered everything that I have said, okay, if you have mastered everything, after that, if you still want to study something, there is one more book, Social Psychology, again by Barron. Indian adoption is there. You can go with that book. That is last. So when I say last, before going to the last, what are all the things you are supposed to do? This is something which is common for every optional subject. Okay, everybody has to do this work. So it is not something which is special for psychology. Everybody has to do this. I always tell you may do the comprehensive notes, prepare the comprehensive notes. For subjects, it's compulsory because usually for every subject there will be some NCERT along with some material, and then you have the class notes. Studying from 4 places, 4 to 5. When I say standard books, there will be at least 2 to 3. Studying from these many places and remembering stuff is pretty difficult. You just imagine all of this put together, will it not run into a minimum of some 3000 pages? Easily it will run into 3000 pages, all put together. 2500, 3000 pages will be there. In the examination, there is a question that pops up, and that question is related to, let's say, memory chapter. You have to recall. You can recall from one book. What about the content from other books? Your brain finds it really difficult to go to those places and get the information and put that information on paper. It is really difficult. So it is always essential with how many other sources you have. You have to create one consolidated source, one integrated source. You have to create. Now, in this subject, however, in psychology, what I have done is I have already prepared this. Okay, I have already prepared this in the sense that you have what? The printed material, that is the PDF that I am going to provide. There is a section on the right. There is a section I have given the space to make notes. So whatever you write in the class notes, you just transfer it here. Understood? There is no duplication of effort. As in, again, you need not go through everything. It's just that whatever you learn in the class, if that is not present in the printed material, you just transfer that material to the right side. If still there is extra, add a page in between, put it there itself. Understood? So your consolidated notes gets ready, as far as I believe, by the time we cover our syllabus as well. Okay. What else do you have to do? Even the consolidated notes will run into a minimum of 800 to 900,000 pages. Now, because it is 1000 pages, again, it is difficult to recall. You think about it. You have to write an answer to a particular question which is related to memory. Along with that, you have to take content from thinking chapter. So, 2 chapters separated by almost 60 pages. Now, your brain finds still difficult. So, the moment the question is from memory chapter, your brain gets fixated to memory chapter. It only keeps searching for content in memory chapter. But we have to somehow bring the content from thinking chapter as well. For that, access should be easy for the brain. How to make the access easy? Give it less content so that it can take the information at a faster pace. For that, we have to create short notes. Understood? The day you have prepared short notes for all the chapters, that's the day you will be in a position to write good answers. Till that point, I believe you are not in a position to write good answers. Okay. That is why I tell you this. Whatever you write in the class, transfer it to here. Then prepare the short notes for the chapter. Soon after that, you are going to get a PDF which is going to have the questions related to that chapter in the end of the chapter as well. Related to that chapter, all questions will be there. Previous year questions. Pick 2-3 questions, write an answer to it. After preparing what? Short notes. Not without preparing the short notes. Okay. So this much work you are supposed to do. And for every chapter, if you have written 5 questions, 5 questions for every chapter. So 28 into 5. How many? 28 into 5. 3 5s are 15. 150, 140, right? 140 questions you have answered. This is the day you can go for the extra books I just mentioned. On that day, you can open which books? Social psychology book. There is one more book related to abnormal psychology. There is one more book related to personality, right? So you can go to all those books. Till that point, there is no need of you opening any book. Any other book is not required. Okay. Now, if there are certain issues related to the understanding of any, experiment maybe, or you want to go into the details of some research study, I'll tell you how research studies work and all. If you have any doubts, you can take recourse to what? Internet. One website I would like you to visit is, which one? You have any idea? For updates on psychology? Psychology Today is a website you can visit. At times, you make a visit. It's not essential that you visit it every day. At times you visit, one or the other research would have happened. It would fit somewhere into your syllabus. You add that element into your class notes or whatever notes is there, consolidated notes, you add a page of it. This becomes your value addition. Not a lot has to be done. Every now and then, after every chapter, you sit down and go through the, Psychology Today website. Done. This is more like current affairs. That's it. Okay. Now, we'll come to the subject, syllabus. So today we are going to focus on the deconstruction of the syllabus. So have you seen the deconstruction of the syllabus? No. No, right? Have I taken the class? No. So deconstruction of the syllabus we will do today, and we'll make an entry into the first chapter, and I'll also give you the overview of the first chapter. What are all the things we are going to study in the first chapter? This much we will do. Probably we will end the class by 4:30 today. Okay, 4 to 4:30 today. From tomorrow onwards, 5:15, 5:30. Okay, 5:15, 5:30. If you need a break, it will be 5:30. If you don't need a break, it's going to be 5:15, 5 o'clock. Do you need a break or don't need a break? Chances are that you would need a break. Okay, we'll see. All right. So you know how the pattern of the paper is, as in optional papers. How do they give the questions? Do you know? You have two papers in every optional. Paper 1 and paper 2. I'll tell you how the scheme is, scheme of examination, we would call it. In each paper, there will be 8 questions. In each of the paper, there would be 8 questions. So per paper, how many marks? 250 marks. 250. The scheme is going to be like this. 4 questions in paper 1, part A. 4 questions in part B. Same here. So whatever is applicable for paper 1 is applicable for paper 2 as well. Out of the 4 questions, they clearly mention question number 1 and here question number 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. 8 questions. Question number 1 and question number 5 are compulsory. They are compulsory. Each question carries how many marks? 50 marks. Each question carries 50 marks. So one question, 50 marks, 50, 50. So you have a paper of how many marks? Total 8 questions. 8 5s are 40, 400 marks. You have to attempt only for 250. Out of 250, 100 is fixed already. Which 100? This one and this one. It is fixed. So usually you get 10 markers here. 10 markers within what? The first question, which means 5 10 markers would be there. Here also 5 10 markers. You just imagine this. How many chapters do we have in paper 1? 14 chapters we have. 5 plus 5 are compulsory. 10 questions are compulsory. Where do you think these 10 questions come from? They are going to come from the same chapter or different chapters? Different chapters. 10 questions will be usually from 10 different chapters, which essentially means out of 14 chapters, no matter what I do, I should study 10. I can't skip any. Okay. And further, in every question, you're going to have 3 sub-questions usually. 3 sub-questions. Okay. 3 to 4 sub-questions sometimes. We have a choice now. So 2 questions are compulsory. How many more? 3 more. You can't attempt all the 3 from this. Okay. We can't attempt all the rest 3 from part A. We have to at least attempt 1 more from each parts, which means second question here, 6th question here. 1 more we can attempt from anywhere. So basically 3 questions from section, any of the section A or section B, and 2 from another section. This is how it is. So that is why even before you start writing the answers, it's always essential for you to go through which questions? Question number 2, 3, 4 and 6, 7, 8 and decide which questions you are going to attempt. You need not go through 1 and 5 first. Why? Because any which ways it is compulsory. Done. Clear? Same thing holds good for paper 2. Okay. This is a scheme. For every subject, it is the same. Why are there so many people online? Is it still getting stuck? Or is it fine now? Yes.
It's fine now.
It is fine. Now it is fine. Okay. So we'll look at the syllabus now and how we approach the syllabus. I'm going to make a list of chapters. And in the list of chapters, I'm going to even mention where it is located as whether it is in paper 1 or paper 2. Okay. We'll start with section 1. Section 1. All the 3 chapters are related to paper 1 itself. Chapter 1, Introduction. Introduction chapter. Chapter 2, Development of Human Behavior. Development of Human Behavior. Chapter 3 is Personality. Chapter 3 is Personality. I'll briefly tell you what each of these chapters entail. I'll anyways go into introduction chapter later. I'll tell you what development of human behavior chapter is about. In this chapter, it is mostly about lifespan development. We go through different stages in our life, right? So from birth till death, there are different stages in our lives. What you consider as right and wrong today, were you considering the same things as right and wrong when you are 5-year-old? Absolutely not. There has been some development. There is this famous, experiment or, a test of reversibility, they call it. You just look at this, how our mind grows or how our brain grows or cognitive functions grow. For you, it is very easy to tell if there is a small beaker, right? And in the beaker, there is some 100 ml of water. You pour it to another beaker, which is narrow. So when you pour it into a narrow beaker, obviously the height of the liquid is going to be more. When I pour it and I ask you, how much water is there in this beaker? Is it more or less compared to the earlier one? You are going to say it is same. When you ask a probably 4-year-old kid, it's going to say this is more. Why does this happen? It's about law of conservation. They do not have this understanding of law of conservation. It has developed over a period of time. What is this cognitive development? Young children will be able to learn the languages faster. If you are given the same amount of time and training, will you be able to learn the language at the same pace? It's difficult. Why does this happen? Right? So, all throughout our life, there are different stages from infancy till death. And various things change. Physically, we change. Mentally, that is cognitively, we change. How we think changes. How we feel changes. Understood? Our tasks, for every age, there is a task we have to complete. See, nobody is giving us those tasks. But what is considered to be normal? Say, for example, by 2 years, a kid should be able to speak. So it's not like it's a rule, but it is more like a normal thing, which is like a task which the kid has to complete. For every age group, there is a task. What are all those tasks? We call them as developmental tasks. And then morally, how do we grow? What is right? What is wrong? How this perception keeps changing? What causes this change? Right? All these, for each age group, we are going to learn here. For every age group. And also there are several theories. which have said many things about, why the development happens in these manners. Okay. And then comes a very fascinating chapter, which is personality. So this chapter, you use this word quite often. So what according to you is personality? What is personality according to you? Characteristics. Online people, what is a personality? Okay, habits, attitudes, behaviors, skills. Okay, we can simply say for now, personality is just about this. There is a consistent way in which we behave across situations, the ways in which we react across situations, right? This consistent way of our reactions or behavior, no matter what situation it is, right, is your personality. Understood? Say, for example, the moment there is something which is urgently to be done, there is a particular way in which this person reacts. That is that person's personality, part of his personality. There is another person, there is some urgent work, that person is like, let it be. That is the part of his personality. Understood? So what is this? Consistent way in which we behave, feel, and experience things. That is personality. So personality is not something which we can decide on the basis of what? One event. We can't decide. And if we decide that way, then that is not personality. That is not a right measure. Understood? So when we speak about personality, there are several theories. How do we develop this personality? Is it like inborn? Or is it like shaped by the people around us, by the environment? So who contributes more to the development of our personality? Right? How to measure personality? Is it possible to measure personality? Right? And can we trust those measures? So all these questions pop up when we take up this personality chapter. A very fascinating chapter. Why? Because everybody will be interested to study about the personality. So many a times what happens is when we are studying, most of the difficult part is that we try to correlate things. It's like we feel like, okay, maybe this is applicable to me. Maybe this is applicable to someone I know. Someone I know behaves like this. Maybe that person has this problem. Because of which it becomes difficult for us to study this subject for a very long time. As in one sitting, studying for 5 hours, 6 hours becomes difficult. Why? Because your brain will be actively processing information. Because connections are too many. See, this is a subject where an individual is being studied. At an individual level, we are studying. Take any other subject. Sociology. It is not personal. It is a group. Anthropology. Again, it is not personal. Political science. We are not related. Philosophy. Beyond us. Understood? Physics, chemistry, math. That too you live. So there is no personal connect. The subject that has a personal connect is this. Because we have that personal investment in it, we feel like, okay, this is connected to us. We think a lot goes on in our head. That is why it becomes somewhat burdensome, right? So that is your personality chapter. The next section, this is a section which is going to be the most boring section. The section 2. Section 2. Section 2, the first chapter in section 2 will mark it as 4th chapter, right? Chapter 4. Methods of psychology. This is the chapter, this chapter and the next chapter. Chapter number 5 is research methods. The contents of these two chapters are common, almost common, almost I would say somewhere around 70% overlap would be there with your sociology. So in sociology optional also these chapters are there, same content, because both are social sciences. So we have that. Chapter number 6 is measurement of individual differences. Measurement of individual differences. Okay. Of the 3 chapters, the boring part is going to be in these 2. Not a lot, but it's more like you have one method. What is that method? Advantages, disadvantages. So less of concept, more of rote learning, I would say. Okay. I have tried to make it interesting by adding some of the studies. So, some experiments in between so that it becomes a bit interesting. We'll see how it goes, this part. And this one is fine. Measurement of individual differences is fine. That is something which is manageable, not so boring as such. So what we do in all these 3 chapters is basically how research is done. What are the different types of research? What are the steps in research? How is a theory developed? Okay. So experiment. How is an experiment done? What are the different ways of doing an experiment? Okay. So there is something like, double blind method, right? So subject design, within subject design, right? So these are all designs, how to design an experiment. All those things are there in these chapters. So this is more like how to develop a test. Say, for example, if we want to give a personality test, how to develop a personality test. So measurement of individual differences. Each individual is different. So how to measure these differences using tests. How to develop a test. What tests are considered to be more reliable? Whether some tests are valid or not. Why they are not valid. Okay, all those things we will be learning in this chapter. This is quite an interesting chapter. This is your section 2. Section 3. Section 3. This section is related to cognitive psychology. Cognitive psychology. Cognitive. One thing you have to remember in this subject is that you are going to come across a lot of new words. But the thing is, all those new words, you need not get flustered about it. The meaning behind those words is very, very simple. These are all the things that happen in our life. It's just that they are new words. Okay. For example, instead of saying, I have a big problem, everybody understands. If I tell you it's a conundrum, now it becomes difficult. We feel like, it's not related. But when you know the meaning, it's too simple. Right? So that is how this subject is. You have some words, new words. The moment you become comfortable with the new words, the subject becomes very, very interesting, very easy actually. Okay. I would like to tell you one thing. If you want to become successful in this examination, 2 things you remember. 2 things. 2 very basic things. You might see that as a silly thing. But I'll tell you honestly, this is very, very important, because you can check with anyone who has cleared the examination, who has gone through this examination till the final stage. You can check them. These 2 things. Spellings. and meanings. Very, very important. The day you become comfortable with these two things, I think you are going to ace that subject. You know why? It's very, very simple. Say I read one entire page. If I'm not able to understand, I'm not able to understand because I don't know the words. If I know the words and their meanings clearly, there is no way I am not, there is nothing that can stop me from understanding that page. Right? Especially I'm talking about humanities. You will be able to understand. It's only that I don't know the meanings of the words. Or sometimes if I am asking you to write something, you are writing, there is a cut in the flow of thought because you don't know the words, or you misspell something and you want to correct it, you are in doubt about that spelling, because of which the train of thought stops. You want to write something, you make a mistake, you are in doubt about a particular word, the spelling of that word, you are thinking about the spelling of the word, the thought stops there. That is why cultivate this habit of every time you feel like there is a mistake in the word I am writing, or I don't know the meaning of the word, make sure you stop, search for the word, learn the meaning, learn the spelling properly, then only move forward. It hardly takes 2 to 3 months and you will be good in the language. Hardly 2 to 3 months, not years. 2 to 3 months. Silly mistakes. Like what? Somebody loses a game. Not this lose. It has to be this lose. Right? Understood? Such mistakes are going to leave a very bad impression in the minds of the evaluator. Very bad impression. These mistakes you don't find in any topper copies. See, they might speak wrongly, but on paper you are not going to find these mistakes. Understood? So cultivate this habit. This is very, very important. You are going to thank me later. So this habit, spellings, meanings. Every time you don't know the meaning, stop there. Stop, learn the meaning, learn the spelling properly, then only move forward. Life becomes so easy. Hindu newspaper, though, it becomes very, very easy. Okay. Coming to section 3. What is cognition? Thinking. Cognition is just thinking. See, instead of cognition, they could have just said thinking. Life would have been easy for us, right? So, development of thought. Instead of that, they say cognitive development. Okay. No, they are different, right? So, the first chapter in cognitive psychology, chapter number 7. Chapter number 7. Sensation, attention, and perception. Sensation, attention, and perception. How many of you have a background in biology here? Biology background? How many do not have biology background whatsoever? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Raise your hands completely. Only till 10th. Okay, fine. This is a chapter where you need some help of biology. Some help. So what I'll do is, because there are a lot of people who do not have a background in biology, we'll do one thing. We'll have one complete session on just the biology part. Okay. Soon after chapter 1, we'll have that particular session related to biology. Only that part of biology which is required for our syllabus. So that life becomes easier in the upcoming chapters. Otherwise, we'll be learning about those things bit by bit. So what we'll do is we'll learn everything that is fundamental in biology for psychology at once, and then we'll move forward and we'll make the mention in the chapters wherever required. That would be better. So instead of that, if we go chapter by chapter, it becomes an issue. So somewhere I'm going to mention pineal gland. Later I am going to mention some other gland. So you are going to find it difficult, right? So neurotransmitters I mentioned, you might not understand, right? So because of which, we might get delayed while we complete the chapters. So easily what we are going to do, one complete session we are going to have for biology. Okay. So sensation, attention, perception. If you ask me, sir, what percentage of the syllabus is biology related? Overall, full, put together. I would put it at 2 to 3% in the entire syllabus. That's all. Right? So what is this chapter about? Sensation, attention, perception. Very easy, as you can understand. Sensation, you know. Attention, you know. Perception. No. See, sensation means the information that comes and, impinges on your sense organ. Right? That is sensation. And then for sensation to happen and for you to feel it, for you to understand that something has touched us or something has impinged on us, you must pay attention. Say, for example, as of now, there's a lot of sound going on outside, noise. Until and unless you paid the attention till this point, that sound existed, but we were not able to sense it properly. So sensation was happening, but we were not able to decipher anything from it. We were not able to derive any meaning. We were not trying to understand anything. So our awareness. So focusing of awareness is attention. And then once we have heard it, now you are hearing some noise. Now we are going to give an explanation to that noise. The person might say, sir, probably that some machine is run. Other person might say, it is something else, sir. It's the gushing wind, maybe. All the three people gave different meanings. That's perception. Perception is not fixed. It changes from person to person. Perspective is different. We'll come to that later. Right? So
reflex reaction, attention and awareness. There is a sense.
No, reflex actions, you don't need perception. That is automatic. That is automatic. So that is something which is hereditary. So reflex actions, all the reflex actions you have, right? These are all hereditary in nature. They are evolution, part of evolution. These are not something which we have developed. They don't change from person to person. It's same. For example, the moment I do this, right? Most of the people who are sitting in the front, they are going to flinch a bit. It's normal reaction from everyone. Where did this come from? As a part of evolution. These are reflex actions. Okay. Anyways, in this chapter, we are going to come up with, learn about theories. So perception is an area which is very, very fascinating. This is where we are going to learn about illusions as well. Wrong perceptions. Illusions, right? There are many illusions, like Muller-Lyer illusion is one. And motion parallax is one more. For example, you're sitting in the train, right? It feels like the mountain far away is not moving at all, right? Or rather, mountain is moving, you are not moving, you are still, but the mountain is moving. Same thing with the moon. You are moving, moon is also coming with you. These are all what? Sort of illusions. Okay. And because of the mirage, there are some illusions. Mirage itself is an illusion, right? So these things we will be learning where? In this. There is one more thing in this. We call it as constancy, right? So perceptual constancy, we call it, of, very good concept that is. For example, you all agree to this. Key, when you look at something, an image is created of it in your brain. Correct? So if I am standing here, you have an image of me. Your eyes took the information and sent it to the brain and gave a dimension. Okay, this person is this tall. Clear? Now, I go and stand some, 500 meters away. The image formed will be this much. Will your brain say, okay, this person is only 3 centimeters tall? Right? Your brain is going to tell, no, the person is of the same height. Okay, what is this? Perceptual constancy. So we are going to learn about this. Many times this becomes a problem. Known people, yes. Unknown people, this becomes a problem. Yes, for the people who were blind earlier, now all of a sudden they got the vision. For them, it is going to be a big problem. Okay. So all these things. Just hold on.
You will say that perception, constant perception is good for a known person and but bad for an unknown person. Why would you say that the constant perception is good for a known person but bad for a?
No. It's not good or bad. What I'm saying is perceptual constancy works for people who have the eyes all throughout their life. For the people who did not have eyes earlier, but they just got the eyes now, for them perceptual constancy become difficult. Right? Why it happens, we'll learn in the, in that particular chapter. So this is chapter number 7. Chapter number 8 is learning. The chapter name itself is learning. How do we learn? What constitutes learning? So according to that definition, if you are not able to recall something, according to learning definition, if you are not able to recall something, it means you have not learned it. Very simple. Sir, I had learnt it, but I have forgotten. It means you have not learnt it. Learning has not happened. A test of learning is recall. See, how to know whether you had learnt it or not? Only if I test you for recall. If you are saying I am not able to recall, it means you have not learnt also. So this chapter has various theories. How do we learn? Even the basic behaviors, how do we learn? There are various theories for that as well. So the famous people here in learning are the behaviorists. We are going to learn about them. Behaviorists and cognitivists. These are famous people. So they have their own theories. And sometimes we learn all of a sudden. All of a sudden, we'll get the solutions. Right? Say, for example, there is something called as latent learning. Okay? This kind of learning works this way. Latent learning. You might have learnt it, learned some behavior, but when you are asked, you will not display it. Generally, you don't display it. But when the time comes, whatever you have learned comes to the fore. This is known as latent learning. For this, there is a famous experiment for rats, right? Rats were used to do this experiment, the maze experiment. It was done. So what happens in this experiment is that, there's a maze, and end of the maze, if the rat completes the maze, end of the maze, it's going to get some food. So what it does is, it keeps trying many times. It goes in the wrong directions, right? So before keeping the food itself, the rat is put into the maze. There is no food given. Many times you put the rat into it, it goes, hits a wall, then again comes back, takes a different route, hits a wall, takes a different route. Finally, end goal, it comes out. No food. So some 20 times it is done, 20, 30 times it is done. Every time, never does it try to come out at once. Same maze. Every time it goes recklessly. Goes, hits a wall. Last time also it hit the wall. This time also it is hitting the wall. So it has escaped 20 times. But every time it is hitting the walls. Now after 20 trials, 21st trial, if you keep the food, this time also it hits the walls and comes out and finds food. Now it is very happy. I got food. Next time, if you put the rat in the start of the maze, because it knows it got the food last time, in one go it reaches the end. It means it has learned the map of the maze, but it did not have the incentive to reach the end in one go. Now it knows it has an incentive, now it will reach. What is this? It was latent learning. Learning had happened, it was latent. It was sitting just in the back of the head. Whenever the moment arises, it comes to the fore. Okay. So what is this? Latent learning. Like this, you have insight learning and all that. So we are going to learn in this. And then the next chapter related to learning is, of course, memory. Memory chapter. What is this chapter about? Because we have not learned. So there are various forget. Probably, see, memory itself is a 3-stage process. Right? Then we have to store the information, and then we have to retrieve the information. Three processes of memory. Memory is functioning properly. All the three processes should be complete. Information is incoming. I have to encode it. I have to basically understand long-term memory. To the long term, I have to push it. Give some clues and push it there. Store it there. And I should recall it. If all the three things are working, then we say memory is there. Why does it fail? Whenever it fails, we say forgetting is happening. Why does it fail? It can fail because of all the three reasons. While storing, while encoding itself, while taking the information itself, I took it wrongly. That is why it fails. Or while storing, I made a mistake. That is why. While retrieving, I am tapping the wrong door to retrieve the information. Say, for example, I want the information about learning chapter. I am tapping memory chapter. I will not get the information. Understood? So, in this chapter, we are going to learn about forgetting as well. And it's a disease as well, a disorder, amnesia. We are going to learn about different types of amnesia, retrograde amnesia, anterograde amnesia. Okay. And what are the techniques, best techniques, proven techniques of memory? Which techniques work better? Which techniques do not work better? This is something which is of practical application to you as well as students. Okay. So this memory chapter is something which is very, very interesting. At the same time, a lot of questions come from this chapter, from the memory chapter. So 3, further, you have more chapters in this section. After memory, you have thinking and problem solving. Thinking and problem solving. How do we think? What is thinking? What are the different ways in which we think? Right? And how do we solve problems? Different ways of solving problems. So, what are the different ways of thinking? What are the different ways of thinking? Huh? We use bottom-up approach, top-down approach to think. Right? Analysis is breaking down. Synthesis is bringing together. Yes? So, different ways of thinking. Concepts we use to think. Do you know what concepts are? Concepts. Anything that we learn in our life is using concepts. The other way of learning is what? Categories. One is concepts. The other one is categories. Mental images. So you just sit down and think about it. If I tell you something, democracy, how do you think about democracy? Either in terms of images or in terms of some concept. That's the only way you can think. There is no other way. So either in terms of concepts or either in terms of categories or in terms of mental images, we think about anything in life. So how do we develop these? And then problem solving, different ways of solving a problem. What are the different ways? Sometimes we solve the problem in a very simple way. How? Trial and error is one method. This is a simple way. Trial and error. Sometimes based on gut feeling we solve. Intuition based. We solve the problems. Sometimes we apply the rational mind. Logical thinking we apply. So there are different ways of solving the problems as well. And then how do we arrive at judgments? We judge something is right, something is wrong. How do we arrive at those judgments? So judgment is also a way of problem solving itself. So all these things we learn in this chapter, chapter number 10. Again, everything is related to us only, nothing related to others. Chapter number 11, intelligence and aptitude. Intelligence and aptitude. While the topic might seem very, very interesting for us, in this chapter, there is less to actually learn about concepts. There is more to memorize actually. Right? There is more to memorize. So in this chapter, we'll be learning about how to measure intelligence. What is considered as intelligence? Only if you score high marks in math, reasoning and English do we consider you to be intelligent, or is there any other way of looking at it? Okay, so what are the different theories on the basis of which intelligence has been defined today? There is something called as musical intelligence, right? There is something called as what? Spatial intelligence as well. So spatial intelligence, whenever it is more, people become, great architects, right? So like that, we learn about intelligence and measurement of intelligence also. So there are some measures of intelligence. We know the famous IQ test. Is IQ test the best test, or does it have some drawbacks? So if I give the same IQ test for people in another country, does it hold good? Why should we not use the same test? All these questions pop up, and then we'll learn about aptitude as well. Aptitude is a part of your syllabus in ethics paper as well. Here it is a very small part. Aptitude here is a very small part. In which ways we will go into detail. So aptitude, how is it different from intelligence? What is the connection between the two? So when we are learning about it, we'll also learn about creativity. We'll also learn about creativity in this chapter. So when do we say a creation has happened? What is creativity according to you? Something authentic, new, something which is original and new, right? So that's what creativity. It's about solving a problem, right? It's about solving a problem in a new way, new and original way. Okay. And next you have language and communication, chapter number 12. Language and communication. We are still in section 3. Language and communication. Communication part is very small. Language is the bigger part in this particular chapter. Same thing with the previous chapter. Intelligence is the bigger part. Aptitude is a very small part. So language, different stages of language development in humans. There is a big debate here. Some people say, some proponents say that language is completely learned. Some say it is completely innate. Innate as in inborn. Okay. So it's a very what we can say, very strong debate that happens between the two sides. And we also learn about basic features of a language. What are the features or characteristic features of a language? When do we call something as a language? And in what stages we develop them? So cooing, babbling. So from infancy, by what age should we acquire the language? And then there is this critical period hypothesis, a famous concept here, critical period hypothesis. That is, if, for example, if you're not exposed to any language at all, after a baby is born, it is not exposed to any language for the first 15 years, let's say. It is not listening to anyone. So basically it is put in a room, let's say. Food is given, it grows till the age of 15. Never has it heard any word. After the age of 15, you try to teach the kid the language. Will it be able to learn or not? So even if it takes time, will it be able to learn the language which is almost proficient as compared to the person who has learned the language from childhood? It can't be. So what is that cutoff age? Is there such a cutoff age? That is critical period hypothesis. What is that critical period between which a language has to be taught? So some people argue that at a very young age, say for example, when you are 1.5 2 years, from that age itself, if you are made to learn, if you are exposed to some 10 languages, chances are that you are going to learn all the 10 languages proficiently. Okay. You might think, sir, how is it possible, sir? No time, sir. So we have to go to school. Kids have to go to school, right? So where is the time? I am telling a possibility. So there is no school, nothing, given that situation. If the person is exposed to 10 different languages, the person will learn automatically. It is automatic. So for that, one of the person says, we are endowed with this LAD, language acquisition device. It's not like it is in our brain or something. So we are born with this device sort of thing in our brain. Where is it? No location as such. So when you put various parts of the brain together, when they function together, we can call it as LAD, language acquisition device. Humans are born with this. And what happens with this device? Automatically, we capture the information and we learn the language. And this LAD is not there in animals. It is something which is specific to humans. Okay. So all these things we learn in this chapter called language and communication. And all these chapters that I mentioned so far are related to paper 1. In section 2, the chapter number 3 is related to paper 2. Section 2, chapter number 3, which means measurement of individual differences. That chapter is related to paper 2. Paper 2, chapter 1, that is. So that is paper 2. Just mention just paper 2, that's sufficient. In cognitive psychology, all the chapters that I've mentioned so far are related to paper 1 itself. And the last chapter in cognitive psychology, which is more like the application of all the chapters that are there in cognitive psychology, it is chapter number 13, educational psychology. Educational psychology. So we can write psychology like this, not in the exam for now. So if you want to write psychological, okay. So it's a psi symbol. Done. So this is the application chapter. So basically, how should a curriculum be, right? So when do you consider the kids to be gifted? How to teach gifted kids? How to teach kids with low IQ? Okay. So all these things come in educational psychology. For paper 2, there is one particular book which is called Smarak Swain. I would not want you to go through it, because all the material that is there in Smarak Swain is already there in your notes. Again, you need not worry about that part. So no need to buy the book for that. Okay. That's the end of cognitive psychology, 13 chapters. Section 4. Section 4. Chapter number 14. Motivation and emotions. Motivation and emotions. So you know different types of motivation, internal motivation, external motivation. Which one is better? Why is one considered to be the better one than the other? What are the different theories of motivation? Why do we get motivated? Under certain conditions, we get motivated more, and under certain conditions, we don't get so much motivated. Why does all that happen? Motivation chapter. Measurement of motivation is also there. And then there is emotions, a fascinating part. So emotions, feelings, moods, what are these? So how do we feel emotions? When do we feel emotions? For this, there are some theories. say for example, fear is an emotion. One theory says like this. A simple way is that fear is an emotion, right? Now, you tell me, you see a dog, the dog barks, right? You run. After that, you feel the fear, or the moment you saw the dog, you felt the fear. After that, you ran. What is it? Right? Okay. In between all this, before you ran, so you said you had fear. Before you ran, did you sweat, or after you ran, you sweat? Now, this is where the confusion is. This is where the confusion lies. Now, for this, we have theories. Some theories say first we are going to decide we have fear, then we run. Some say first we run. After that, heart rate increases. Then because heart rate is increasing, we feel, okay, something bad is happening. Okay, now we fear. Both theories are right under certain conditions. For one condition, one theory applies. The other condition, other theory applies. That is why when we learn this subject, we should be having an open mind, in the sense we should not jump to conclusions that this theory is right, this theory is wrong. Right? It's more like this theory will be good to explain some of our behaviors. There is another theory which is going to explain some other behaviors of ours. So we can't completely write off any theory. Understood? Why? Because how it happens, somebody would have thought, first person would have thought, okay, emotions, I have to do research on it. They came up with a theory. After that, another person comes and says, hey, your theory is not able to explain these phenomena. I have a theory. This theory is able to explain everything this theory was not able to explain. And there will be some more left. There is going to be another person comes and says, okay, your theory is not able to explain the other behaviors. I will explain it. Because of which we can't clearly, and the final theory would have forgotten the first behaviors, which the first theory explained. So theory 1 explained behavior 1, behavior 2, failed to explain behavior 3, 4, 5. Theory 2 comes in, explains behavior 1, behavior 2, behavior 3. Right? Theory 3 comes in and explains behavior 3, behavior 4, behavior 5, fails to explain behavior 1. Now, how to explain all the behaviors then? We have to take the help of all the three theories. Understood? This should be the mindset of ours. There will be no universal theory to explain everything. Understood? Okay. That is motivation and emotion. So this is where we'll be learning about emotional intelligence as well. Again, a part of your ethics paper. So in ethics, you have 1 aptitude, 2 emotional intelligence, and there is one more attitude chapter. Attitude chapter is there. So that is not something which we are going to learn in this section. That is a different section. Motivation and emotions. This is paper 1. 14th chapter is paper 1. Chapter number 15 is paper 2. Work psychology. Work psychology. This is chapter number 15. This is paper 2. All the chapters from here are paper 2 in this section. Work psychology. Next, psychology and economic development. Psychology and economic development. And then you have application of psychology in other fields. Here you have sports psychology, military psychology. Sports psychology, military psychology. Basically, these three chapters have elements, basically application it is. Paper 2 related. Application of what? Application of this chapter, motivation chapter, and also application of cognitive psychology. That is what you have in these three chapters. So application of psychology and whatever we have learned in the workspace. How to select people, recruitment, how should it be done, tests for recruitment, right? So whenever the motivation is low, how to motivate the employees, how should a leader be, leadership skills, all those things in work psychology, psychology and economic development. This is like, some countries are developed countries. How is it they have become developed countries? Is there something related to the psychology of the people itself there, that they have become rich countries, right? So there are some countries which are poor. Why have they remained poor? Is it something related to the way they think, the things they learn? So that is what psychology and economic development is about. And then application of psychology in other fields, sports psychology and military psychology. Again, it is about motivation itself. How important is cooperation in sports as well as in military? So in military psychology, we also talk about person environment fit. Ergonomics, it is related to ergonomics, like how to design the machinery. So equipment, whatever is required, defense equipment. For designing it also, we need what? Psychology. Why? With the help of psychology, we can clearly tell what is more easily accessible for a person, what the person finds comfortable. For example, if the temperature is so and so, the person will be able to operate efficiently. Otherwise, no. Where do we learn it from? From psychology itself. So human behavior and how it is going to get impacted by various other factors, that is studied in psychology itself. Okay, all these things we learn in this section. Section number 5. It is more like social psychology. Section 5 is more social psychology. Social psychology. In this, the chapter which is related to ethics, integrity, and aptitude, attitudes, values, and interests. Attitudes, values, and interests. And interests. A very good chapter. Whatever you learn in this chapter, it's going to be very, very useful for your ethics paper. That one entire chapter is covered properly. One entire chapter. So basically, you have 7 plus 1 chapters in ethics. 7 plus 1. One is the ethics case studies. So out of the 7 chapters, one entire chapter is here. Complete. Without any doubt, it is there. How? What you should be careful about? You learn more here. Make sure you leave out some extra stuff while writing answers for ethics paper. Like what? Here we'll be talking about certain research, experiments. Those things you have to leave out. So you have to keep the understanding to basic in ethics paper. Okay. Chapter number 19. So again, chapter number 18 is paper 1. Chapter number 19 onwards, it is paper 2. In this section, the other chapters are paper 2. Application of psychology, sorry, you have community psychology. Application of psychology to disadvantaged sections. Paper 2. These are all paper 2. Chapter number 18, paper 1. This is paper 1. See, it's just that this is the basic chapter. The application of this chapter is found in these chapters. This is the basic chapter, which is in paper 1. See, paper 1 is all about concepts, theories. The application of these chapters is found where? In paper 2. So that is why 18 chapter is paper 1. And the 3 chapters are paper 2. Okay. Chapter number 21 is related to psychological problems of social integration. You tell me, per chapter, how many questions do you need the answers to? So from my side, for how many questions do you need the answers to? 2 questions? 3 questions? 2 to 3 questions for every chapter. We will do the answer deconstruction in the classroom. Okay, we'll do answer deconstruction. So rest of the questions, you try to write the answers. I will choose those questions which are very, very difficult, which are analysis based. Those questions I'll choose. Okay. 20th chapter. Application of psychology to disadvantaged sections. Psychological problems of social integration. And the psychology of gender. See, look at this. All these are more like society related. These are all what? Society related. So that's why it's part of social psychology. So in this chapter, disadvantaged sections, we'll be learning about poverty. Okay. Deprived people. Why they remain deprived. Right? Why some people remain poor always. Social integration. Why there are riots. Why there are fractures within the society. What has caused these fractures? So all these questions get answered here. Psychology of gender, a very fascinating chapter. In psychology of gender, we'll be learning about, glass ceiling effect. Heard of it? Glass ceiling effect. Have you heard of self-fulfilling prophecy? Yes. So those things we will be learning in this chapter. So why men are not treated equal to women, or the other way around, right? So all these things we will be learning in this chapter. And then 2 more sections we have. Section number 6. This is one of those sections which you might find very, very interesting. Like, very interesting, in fact. Section 6. Which one do you think it is? Which section do you think it is? Abnormal psychology. So very interesting for most of the people. first chapter in this, chapter number 20. And all the chapters in this are paper 2 only. Psychological well-being. Psychological well-being and mental disorders. We'll be learning about mood disorders, anxiety related disorders. So you have heard of panic attacks, anxiety you have heard of, depression you have heard of, and then schizophrenia you have heard of. Yes, hallucination. All these things we will be learning here. Psychopath, sociopath, yes, bipolar disorder, all those things we'll be learning in this chapter. That is why it is very, very interesting chapter. And the next chapter is how to treat them. Not the exact treatment, but we call it as therapeutic approaches. You know phobia? Phobias. Phobia is a disorder. Sir, how is it a disorder? Phobia, I also have fear. So, when you have excessive fear of something and which cannot be explained, then we say it's a mental disorder. Then phobia is a phobia, then only we call it as phobia. Phobia is excessive fear of something without possible explanation. Too much fear. Like you are not able to sleep because of the fear. Right? Sir, I also have fear of lizards. I have fear of cockroaches. That is fine. There is an explanation to it. There is an explanation how. You have an explanation. Ki cockroach hai? I know I have the fear that it is going to cause some infection or it is ugly to look at. That is why I have the fear. You have a reason to it. It's not that cockroach is going to eat me alive. It's not that fear. So there are some fears which can't be explained. Excessive fear. Then we say it is phobia. So in therapeutic approaches, wonderful things are there, especially all these wonderful approaches or therapeutic approach is mostly by behaviorists. Behaviorist people. Say for example, if I have the fear of snakes, you have the behaviorists, you ask them what to do with this person. This person has a lot of fear of snakes. What to do? What do you think they will suggest? They have two methods. One method is, first, let's show this person something like a snake in a picture. Regularly, we keep showing this person the same thing. So the person will get adjusted to it, will not have any sort of fear. Next set of photographs, we are going to have actual snake in a photograph. Then we'll show the video. Then a plastic snake, somebody playing with it. So you see all these, you don't have the fear of, the plastic snake now. So slowly, after some 10 months maybe, even if the real snake comes, you will not have the fear. This method is known as systematic desensitization. This is one of the approach. The other approach is called flooding. What to do? You have a room full of snakes, throw the person into the room. The person will scream, run, he can't escape. He will learn to live with it or die there. So highly likely the person will learn to live with it. So no fear of snakes anymore. So some extreme approach is suggested by behaviorists. So these are therapeutic approaches. And then 25 is related to rehabilitation psychology.
The diagnosis also included in these chapters.
Mm-hmm.
Other diagnosis of the disorders also included.
Yes. Others are also included. Next is rehab psychology. Now, what happens with this chapter is that, say somebody has a mental disorder, treatment is given, fine. After the treatment is given, there is going to be a gap, no? Like before the onset of mental disorder, After the onset of mental disorder, treatment was to be given. Almost 1.5, 2 years have happened. Now, after 2 years of treatment, if the person has to come back to the real world, the person should be ready to integrate into the real world because the world has changed. Or maybe the person does not have enough skills, or there is a huge gap. How to bridge this gap? That's rehabilitation psychology. Rehabilitation. So, putting the person back into the habitat. Rehab. Which is that habitat? Society. How to put the person back into the society? What should be done before that? That's rehabilitation psychology. So, this rehabilitation psychology will be there for even the criminals. Okay. So, criminals, sir, why criminals? Is it a mental disorder? Rather than a mental disorder, it is a maladjustment in the society. Who's a criminal? A person who goes against the rules of the society. Right? Person who goes against the rules of the society or the laws of the society, which means the person has adapted wrongly to the society. Maladjustment. Now we have taken this person away to correct him. Where have we taken him? We have taken him to the prison, which we call it as correctional facility. So we have corrected this person. Now we have to send him back to the society. But there is this gap. So how to bridge that gap? Here. What are all the things we need to do? Okay. So people who have suffered HIV, who have fought HIV and come out of HIV. So how to rehabilitate them? So all these things. Okay. That's till 25. The last section, section number 7. Section 7. Issues and perspectives in modern contemporary psychology. Issues and perspectives in modern contemporary psychology. In this chapter, we are going to learn about the altered states of consciousness. What are the altered states of consciousness? Sleep is an altered state of consciousness. And the fascinating thing that happens during sleep is dreams. Why do we get dreams? Is there meaning to those dreams? So, how does a dream progress? Is it real time, or is it faster, or is it slower? What do you think? It is faster. The events in the dream that happen, what do you think? Is it like it goes fast, or is it slow? Fast. So anything that goes on in your dream, some studies suggest that it happens in the exact time period as it might happen in the real life. Say, for example, if I am having a conversation with a person in a dream, the speed at which the conversation happens will be equal to the speed at which the conversation might happen in real life as well. Now, some studies also suggest that whatever you get in the dreams is nothing special. It's something related to what has happened in your life or what you have learned in your life. Why? Because just think about it. Sit down and think about it. Have you got any dream so far which was absolutely no way related to whatever you have ever thought of? See, you have thought of many things. Okay. And you get something in the dream. It is completely unrelated to any of the thoughts you have had so far. Is there something like that? You might have, sir, in my dreams, there was an alien. But alien you have thought of, no? So something which you have never thought of cannot come in dream. You must have thought of it earlier itself. That is why it is coming in dream. Okay. So anything that comes in your dream must have in some way or the other is related to your real life itself. You might have thought about it, you might have seen it. Okay. So this is what we say about dreams. And then perception, subliminal perception, we say, right? Extrasensory perception. There is something called as ESP, extrasensory perception. People claim that they are able to talk to people who are not present here. They are able to see the things which are not happening here, right? They are able to see the future. We call it as clairvoyance. So all these things which happen beyond physics. So these are all metaphysical things. That is why we say extrasensory perception. Beyond the senses, people are able to perceive. Perception is happening without the help of sense organs. That is why extrasensory perception. How to explain these things? So that is one part we discuss here. And then chapter number 27. And a famous part of this is one more thing which is related to motivation again. So that also we'll be learning in this chapter, issues and perspectives. And then you have application of psychology in IT and mass media. This part IT and mass media. This is not a application of this chapter. It's a standalone chapter, we can say. It is a standalone chapter, 27 and 28. Application of psychology to environment and related fields. To environment and related fields. So in this chapter, application of psychology to IT and mass media, basically we learn about the impact of TV, internet, all those things we will be learning. Distance education, all those things in this. In application of psychology to environment and related fields, pollution, crowding. What is the impact of crowding on us, our behaviors? Those things we will be learning here. So that's the 28th chapter. So these two are not the application of this chapter. Remember that. So these are standalone chapters, all three. So these two chapters are paper 2 again. This is paper 1. 26 is paper 1, 27 and 28 are paper 2. So a total of 28 chapters. What do you think about the chapters? Nice? Huh? Anybody who has studied psychology before? 1, 2, raise your hands completely. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. Great, wonderful. Online people, anyone? Online people, anyone who has studied? Yes, no, no. Just started. Yes, so there are 2 people. Yes. 3. Good. 1 person with NCRT. So we have a good 8 number, 8, 9 people who have studied psychology already. That's wonderful. I can direct some questions towards them. Right? Okay. Of all the chapters, the biggest chapters are going to be 1, chapter number 1, 2, chapter number 2, 3, chapter number 3. These are the biggest chapters actually. Apart from that, you are going to get the big chapters later in between. But these are the big chapters, very big chapters. So it's going to take some time. By the time we complete these chapters, it's going to take at least what? 3 to 4 weeks easily, just for these 3 chapters. After that, we can pick up the pace. Everywhere you find, paper 2 chapters. So 3 chapters related to paper 2 in your abnormal psychology. Abnormal psychology section 6, right? Only those 3 chapters are the ones which take some extra time. Apart from that, we take time in educational psychology and work psychology. So basically 5 chapters of paper 2 will take some time. Apart from that, all the other chapters, 9 chapters of paper 2, they are like very fast, because there is not much we have to learn. It's more like, I keep telling things and you just listen because you already understand those things. It's mostly application. Okay. Section 1 chapters related to paper 1 or 2. Section 1 chapters, all paper 1, all 3 paper 1. Okay. Hmm? Chapter 6. What is the chapter name? It is chapter 2. Sorry, paper 2. Measurement of individual differences, paper 2. Chapter 4 and 5, paper 1. Research methodology and research methods and methods of psychology. Okay. Now, we'll start with chapter 1, introduction chapter. First, we'll create a sort of a mind map for the entire chapter about the things we are going to learn in this chapter. Always keep the syllabus. I don't think you need a syllabus as well. Why? Because whenever I, map out the headings in the start of the chapter, that itself will be the syllabus, in fact. Introduction chapter. Psychology and its definition. Psychology and its definition. Next. Historical antecedents. Historical antecedents. What are historical antecedents? Before the field of psychology, which are the things, which are all the disciplines which were there, which laid the foundation for psychology as a field? In historical antecedents, we have 2 fields. One is philosophy. The other one is physiology. Okay. In philosophy, Rene Descartes, and his rationalism. John Locke. What are their contributions and how it laid the foundation for psychology as a field? In physiology, Johannes Müller, So you say Müller, when you put two dots, it's Müller. Johannes Müller. Then you have Hermann von Helmholtz. Hermann von Helmholtz. Johannes Müller, Hermann von Helmholtz. And then you have Ernst Weber. Gustav Fechner. Hermann von Helmholtz, Ernst Weber, Gustav Fechner. So this is about physiology. Done. So their contributions, what have they done? And next, so once we have seen fine psychology and its definition and then historical antecedents, this laid the foundation for this field. Obviously, there has to be a starting of the field. The person who laid the foundations or the person who started this field of psychology. So we have to learn about that person. You know that person? Huh? William or Wilhelm Wundt? What is it? So what is it? W? Not the other one. The other one. Wundt. W-U-N-D-T. It is Wundt, not wouldn't. Okay. So the first person is Wilhelm Wundt. So after historical antecedents, we start with the person who founded psychology as a field, Wilhelm Wundt. W-U-N-D-T. Wundt. So his disciple, his follower, Edward Titchener, Edward Titchener started a school of thought called structuralism. This is the first school. What is a school? School is not our school. It's a school of thought, the way of thinking. So how to study psychology? Right? What should psychology study? Should psychology study soul? Should psychology study the brain activity? Should psychology study only behaviors? What should it study? What is the method of studying? Should we observe people and make theories? Or should we measure and make theories? How should we make theories, develop theories? So that is a school, particular way of learning. Okay. So Wilhelm Wundt and Edward Titchener along with structuralism. Done? The next school is functionalism. Functionalism, founded by William James. William James. See, I am writing all these names in the starting itself. Why? Because if you remember all these names, this structure, if you remember, I think you will be able to, once you sit in the class with this structure and the class, I would say you would easily be able to remember at least 30 to 35% of the content just by looking at this one. 30 to 35% easily you will be able to remember when you have this structures. How many times have you tried this? Like before the start of the chapter, you write everything, what is there in the chapter. Do you do it for every chapter? Yes. If you do, you will be able to remember most of the stuff. It is pretty easy to remember. Okay. Functionalism. Next. These are the two schools, while they are the founding schools. Today, we don't use these ideas at all. In fact, these schools became more like what? Pathways. They opened the pathways and they disappeared. So they are not in use anymore. Whatever their teachings are, they are not in use. So this school was the structuralism, Wilhelm Wundt, it was like scientifically we have to study behavior. This is what it said, not behavior. Consciousness we have to study. That is what it said, and it left. And this one came and we are supposed to focus more on the functions of our consciousness. What is the use of studying psychology? That is what the focus should be. Practical application. That is more important. It said and it left. So whatever we learn in these schools, application is not much. Why? Because they did not develop any theories as such. From now on, whichever schools we are going to talk about, these are the ones which we talk about in the entire syllabus. Okay. So the next school, very, very famous one, is behaviorism. Behaviorism. Three people are very, very important when we speak about behaviorism. Who are the three people? Ivan Pavlov, John B. Watson, and the third person, B.F. Skinner. Three people. Okay. Now, so the moment this school came into being, this line of thought came into being, the other two schools vanished. This became very famous. Everybody started accepting whatever behaviorism was saying. So psychologists should be studied, seen from this perspective. Okay, behaviorists, whatever they are saying, this is acceptable. People were like very supportive of this view. Something which questioned behaviorism, which came as a challenge to behaviorism, was the next one, which is psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis. The person. Psychoanalysis. Sigmund Freud. Eccentric ideas. Eccentric, concepts. Why eccentric? Nobody had spoken about unconscious. This is the person who brought the idea of unconscious. Okay. Another school which came as a headache to behaviorism, we can say, as a challenge to behaviorism, was the humanistic school. Two people important here: Abraham Maslow and Carl Rogers. Carl Rogers. The other school which came not as a challenge, it came with a different perspective altogether, which is called the Gestalt school. Gestalt school, Gestalt, Gestalt psychology, Gestalt school. Three people are important here. These are the only three people we learn about when we speak about Gestalt psychology. Max Wertheimer, Max Wertheimer, Max Wertheimer, 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 Wolfgang Kohler. Sir, where are all these people from? Huh? Where are these people from? Wolfgang Kohler. Kohler. Germany, mostly from Germany. And Kurt Kofka. Kurt Kofka. Koffk. Kurt Kofka. And then came the cognitive revolution. The cognitive revolution. The next school we can say, or perspective. Cognitive revolution. Here you have famous John Piaget, Lev Vygotsky. These are famous people. So these people might seem very alien to you now, but as classes progress, these are going to become household names because they keep reappearing again and again. Next. These are all the schools. Okay. Now we have to see the perspectives that we have today in practice. See, these are all the ones which started. These are going to provide us the principles. Principles as in how to look at behavior, how should we study behavior. These things these are going to tell us. Today in practice, when we study behaviors, how do we study them? How should we look at them? This is given by the present perspectives. So we call them as current perspectives. All these perspectives, the current perspectives, are based on the above schools itself. Okay. What are the current perspectives? One, within the current perspectives, the first perspective is the behavioral perspective. So it is again based on the behaviorist school. One, behavioral perspective. Two, cognitive perspective. Two, cognitive perspective. Three, psychodynamic perspective. Remember, it's not psychoanalytical, it is psychodynamic perspective. So what is it we understand? We understand that the original schools have said something. In the perspectives, current perspectives, we leave out certain things which the original schools had said, and we have done some accommodations. Like in the cognitive school we talk about, it has made this Gestalt psychology, the original school, Gestalt psychology, whatever teachings were there in Gestalt, it is also a part of cognitive school today, cognitive perspective today. It was a separate school earlier, school of thought. Now what we have done, the teachings of it, we have integrated into cognitive perspective. Why? Because there is not much of a difference between the two. That is why we have integrated it. They are connected. That is why we have put it into cognitive perspective. Psychodynamic, when you look at it, whatever Freud has said, that is psychoanalysis. Everything Freud has said is not true. There are some changes made to it. New people have come, followers of Freud itself. They opposed Freud on certain aspects. They questioned and they came up with new findings, and that is psychodynamic. Understood? And then we have humanistic perspective. Humanistic perspective. 5. Biopsychological perspective. Biopsychological perspective. 6. Developmental perspective. Developmental perspective. 7. Feminist perspective. 8. Constructivist perspective. Okay. So there are 8 perspectives, and you can also add 2 more. Those are the 21st century trends as well. The other 2, these are considered to be the 21st century trends. The other 2. This is also current perspective itself, but 21st century trend. Evolutionary perspective, that is 9. So 21st century trends, you can say. You can even add feminist to it. Feminist is also 21st century trend. Evolutionary perspective. 10. Socio-cultural or multicultural perspective. Socio-cultural or multicultural perspective. Okay. Done. This is about the perspectives. Next. After the perspectives, we are going to learn about grand issues in psychology. Grand issues in psychology or big debates in psychology. One, the first grand issue, stability versus change. Two, nature versus nurture. Three, rationality versus irrationality. These are the grand issues. Next. Major subfields in psychology. I'll give you the assignment towards the end of the chapter. Major subfields in psychology. 1, clinical psychology, counseling psychology. 3, developmental psychology. 4, educational psychology. 5, experimental psychology. 6, industrial psychology. 7, and evolutionary psychology. Social psychology. Positive psychology. Social psychology, positive psychology. cross-cultural and indigenous psychology. Cross-cultural and indigenous psychology. INDIGENOUS, indigenous. So speaking of indigenous psychology, what should we learn about? Psychology in India. So this is the main head. Then we'll come to psychology in India. And then we will learn about internationalization of psychology. How did psychology go international? Because it was a phenomenon which started only in Germany and then spread to US. How did it become internationalized? What was the turning point? Psychological professions. What are the various professions into which people who study psychology go into? So psychological professions. Okay. And then psychology and science. In this, we'll learn about what science is, what scientific methods are, and whether psychology is a science or not. Whether psychology is a science or not. This we explore. Once we learn this, we are also going to learn about why scientific method is important. It's something which questions common sense. Questioning common sense, we can say. It is about questioning common sense. Okay. And finally, linkages of what? Psychology with various natural sciences, various social sciences. So it's the give and take relationship of psychology with various other disciplines. Like what is the give and take relationship of psychology with physics, with chemistry, with biology, right? Sociology. So various other fields like anthropology, philosophy, what does it give and take? So that is about linkages. This is going to be your assignment. Sir, how will we get this assignment done? You just go to NCERT. That's it. That's the end of your first chapter. On paper, it looks very small. Long. Is it too long? I thought you would say it's A short chapter. Enough? A bit more. Where did you miss? This one? Still down. Here? Very last. Okay, okay. Psychology as a science, huh? This one? How many pages did it run into? 1.5 page. That's it. Ah. Okay. Probably by next week, you'll get the printouts, right? You get the printouts of it. Life becomes easier. In the sense, you need not write a lot of stuff, I say, in the class. Okay. Shall we start? Ah. So, where is it we are supposed to start? Psychology and its definition. That's where we are supposed to start. See, now you have an idea like what we are going to do. Yes? Psychology and its definition. See, whenever we say psychology, there are certain thoughts that come into the mind of the people. So if you tell someone who is not preparing for this exam, even people who are preparing for this examination, if you tell them which is the optional you have chosen, if you say it is psychology, they're like, first impression they have is like, what do you just go and ask them, what do you think psychology is all about? Just check their answers. So it's mostly about mental people, maybe. Usually that's what they say. But that is only a small part. As you saw, there are 28 chapters. Out of the 28 chapters, it is only one chapter where we are talking about what? The mental illnesses. Abnormal psychology. That's only one chapter. Disorders. The other two chapters in that same unit are related to correcting the problems. It's not even about the problems. Understood? So, we have a lot of wrong notions about psychology as a field. So, that's because of the lack of awareness or people's negligence to learn about themselves, maybe. So, while we can say safely that many people you might find not knowing about psychology, but they will always be interested about knowing about themselves more. And that is what this subject does. It helps you understand about yourself more and also about others a bit more. And also you get to, gauge the relationships better. So once you have completed the syllabus, you will be looking at many things in your life from a different perspective if you learn the subject properly. This is like what? The change happens in you without even you knowing. If you learn the subject honestly. People who are very, very impatient automatically become patient with this subject. Automatically. So that is a sea change, a very big change that it's going to bring. The same thing does not happen with other subjects. Why? It is not personal. This is very, very personal. Of all the subjects that are there, this is the only subject which is very, very personal. It's about us, about what we do, what we think, what we feel. So now, because this subject is about what we think, what we feel, and what we do, we'll define it. Okay, we'll define on the same lines. So, the definition of psychology goes like this. It is a scientific study. It is a scientific study of human behaviors. You can add human and animal behaviors, mental processes, so behaviors, mental processes, and experiences in various contexts. This is the complete definition. So, scientific study of behaviors, mental processes, and experiences in different contexts. Two things are important here. It is scientific and various contexts. What do we mean by these things? First of all, by the very definition, this is the final acceptable definition by majority of the psychologists today, which means all the psychologists view this field as a science. This field is viewed as a science. Which means objective. Okay, we go in search of evidence, facts, right? When we say science, it generally uses a famous model, hypothetical deductive model. What is this? We'll learn later. This is about developing a theory and proving the theory. That is how science works. We use the same method in this entire discipline. We develop a theory and then we try to prove that theory. By doing what? Experimentation maybe, by doing studies maybe. How do we do those studies? Without any bias. Okay, so this is how science works, which is based on facts, observation, right? So we say this field is a scientific study. This field is scientific. And then we study all these things, human behaviors, mental processes, and experience. What these things are, we learn in various contexts. What contexts? In our surroundings. What are all the contexts we find? One context is the individual context. As an individual, we engage in behaviors, we feel certain things. This is one context. Individual is one context. Two people are involved as well. Then we say it is dyadic, a dyadic context. Two people, dyadic context. And three, it can be a collective context, that is at the level of a society maybe. When two people are involved also, there are feelings. When two people are involved, there is behavior. There are thoughts, right? And when there is a group, there are thoughts, there are behaviors. These are the various contexts in which we study what? Behaviors, mental processes, and experiences. Now, first, what is a behavior? So every part of the definition we are looking into. What are behaviors? What are behaviors? Behaviors or overt actions that we can observe. Overt actions. What are overt actions? Outward actions. Outward actions and reactions that we can see, that we can observe. Sir, what about the activity that happens within us? Can we consider that to be behavior?
You actively lead to such behaviors.
Okay, now. While I am trying to do something, while I'm ready to engage in an action, I don't engage in an action. Before I engage in an action, right? Don't you think there will be electrical signals sent from my brain to muscles? Yes. Can this be seen? Can it be measured, however? If I use some devices, can I see it? Can I find it? Yes. So, subtle changes in our body which can be observed indirectly and measured also constitutes behavior. See, things that happen in our body, using some technology, we can always see them and measure them as well, measure that activity as well. These are subtle activities which happen inside. If we are able to see them and measure them, it also constitutes behavior. Something is happening. That also is considered behavior. So when we say behavior, behavior is not just about what you can see with your eyes, what you can observe only. Something, some subtle changes that happen inside you, which can be measured indirectly, that also constitutes behavior. Very, very important. Understood? Next. Mental processes. These are the internal, covert, covert means which can't be seen, covert activities, of our brain. Internal covert activities of our brain. What does this mean? Are these electrical signals that can be observed, which means it is behavior? Then what is mental activity? See, in the brain, nerve impulses will be there, electrical signals will be transmitted, right? So whenever you do anything, these electrical signals get transmitted, which means it is behavior. Then what is mental process? Now, while behavior is about just the activity, what happens after the activity in the brain is about mental processes like memory, thinking, problem solving, decision making. All these are the activities of your mind or the brain. Can you find where it is happening? exactly? No. Whereas behavior, you can clearly pinpoint and say this is where it is happening. But the activities I am mentioning now, can you clearly mention this is where it is happening? No. Mental activities, that is why they are internal and covert. Examples of these mental activities, basically mind related activities. Which are they? Thinking, problem solving, judgment, decision making, learning. Yes. Yes, same. Thought process, mental process. No, we can't use it. We'll come to that later. So mental processes are from the mind. Brain activity is about behavior. Okay. So mind and brain are different. We'll come to that. We'll talk about it. Soul, mind, brain, all the three are different from one another. Okay. So we can't use them interchangeably. We can never use them interchangeably. Okay. Okay. Done. These are what? Dreaming. It is a mental process. Absolutely. So it's like, why do we dream? In fact, we are not able to remember all the dreams. Do you remember all your dreams? You think about it. It's so fascinating, no? Like, if you wake up and try to recall what your dream was, you will be able to recall. Okay, if you try to recall, soon after you wake up, you sit down, just for 10 seconds, you think about, okay, what did I dream of? You'll be able to recall at least some of the dream. If you fail to recall, just after 10-15 seconds, you get engaged in some other activity, the dream is gone. Just make a list of the dreams you have had. Let's see, you have dreamt almost every week, 3-4 dreams will be there, and you also might have recalled, like, such a dream was there on that day. Now if you sit down and try to recall at least 10 dreams, it is very difficult, right? One reason might be because we have not pushed it into the long term memory, because we have not spent enough time on it to revise it and push it there. This is one reason. The other reason is they are mostly illogical. Because they lack logic, we will not find it easy to store it. So that is why if you want to remember a dream, one way is soon after you wake up, you sit down and think about what dream I had. You'll be able to recall some of the dreams. Otherwise, they're just gone. So it's a fascinating thing, dreams. And what people say about dreams is like, your brain has to be active all the time. If it is inactive, it means it's just about all of a sudden it goes numb and we become brain dead. It has to be active. Some activity has to go on. So while we are awake, the sense organs, what they do, they send some information to our brain, and brain takes this information and keeps processing that information. It is very active. Now when we sleep, when we lie down, the information from the sense organs is cut off to the brain. Now where will the brain get the information to process? What it does, it keeps searching in the brain itself. Okay, there are some thoughts. Okay, let me bring these. So the input is the existing thoughts itself. When it tries to mix all those thoughts and try to process it, it creates some illogical stream of thought, which is a dream. That is why all of a sudden you are in where you are in Bangalore, and your house is on the street, you are sleeping. All around you have traffic. So anything comes in your mind. In your dream, anything comes up. And all of it is some way related to the reality you have. Okay. So this is mental processes. And the final one is experiences. What are experiences? Experiences are highly subjective in nature. Okay. These are mostly in the form of feelings. When we say subjective, they vary from person to person. Anything that we see, the experience of it, anything that we learn, the experience of it is going to vary from person to person. Right? So, this is the final definition we have. Psychology is a scientific study of human and animal behaviors, mental processes, and experiences in various contexts. Done. Now, it's not like they were able to arrive at this definition just like that. There was a lot of fight that went on for years. So, initially, the idea of psychology was just what? Whatever was given by Wilhelm Wundt. Wundt was like, psychology is a study of consciousness. Before Wundt, what is psychology? Psychology should study soul. Now, to come to this definition, it took years. It took a lot of years, in fact. Look at this, how it pans out. It is like the three famous schools are the ones which they have put their ideas together, and this definition is materialized today. Behaviorists, cognitivists, cognitive psychology, mental process, experiences, psychoanalysis, and humanists. 4 famous schools. Whatever they are saying, everything is acceptable under certain conditions. This is how we are supposed to look at the definition. Done? And if you want to take it further, various contexts. This is a socio-cultural context, multicultural concept. Understood? From the societal perspective also we are, right? Fine. We'll just enter historical antecedents and we will leave. Historical antecedents. Historical antecedents. So, 2 parents of psychology. Who are the 2 parents of psychology? One is philosophy, the other one is physiology. Two parents. So, what is philosophy? What is philosophy? What is philosophy? So, psychology, psyche plus logic. So, logos, study. Psyche, mind or soul. So, study of mind or soul. That's how the name came. But today we don't study the soul part. So, we study the mind part or the activity of the mind, which is the mental process actually. So, philosophy, phi, phi, phil is love, Sophia is knowledge. Love for knowledge, philosophy. So, what is philosophy? Philosophy is a discipline. It is a discipline that uses that uses careful reasoning, or rational thinking or rational thought to answer the fundamental questions related to reality, knowledge, and morality, and many other aspects of life. Fundamental questions of life, basically. So, how does it try to answer? Using rational thought. What is rational thought? With logic. Seeing things from all perspectives, based on evidence. It is going to try to come up with answers to fundamental questions of life. What are the fundamental questions of life? What is the purpose of life? Why do we live? Right? What is right? What is wrong? That is morality. What is true knowledge? The world around us, is it the true world? Or, what is beyond this reality? If this is the reality, what is beyond reality? Such questions, fundamental questions. So we all are alive. Why are we alive? Right? What is death? What is God? So such questions, very fundamental questions, which we do not bother ever. Such questions are answered by philosophy. So this field lays the foundation for almost every field of knowledge. Why? Because it is concerned about knowledge, right? I told you it raises questions about knowledge. It provides an intellectual foundation for many other disciplines, including psychology. Intellectual foundation for many other disciplines, including psychology. So there are some philosophical ideas that emerged since the founding of philosophy as a field. So philosophy came into being in the before Christ era. Since those times, there have been some philosophical ideas. So all these philosophical ideas have laid the foundation for most of the disciplines we have today, most of the other disciplines, including psychology, anthropology, sociology. For all these disciplines, be it your physics, chemistry, for all these fields, they have laid the foundation. And what philosophical ideas are these? One, mechanism is one idea. Two, determinism is another idea. And three, reductionism is another idea. And dependence on this careful reasoning for finding answers. That is, thinking in a rational manner to get answers, using logic to get answers. This is known as rationalism. We call it as what? Rationalism. So from philosophy, we have rationalism as an idea. We have to use a logical thinking in order to arrive at answers. Mechanism is another idea. Determinism is another idea. Reductionism is another idea. All these ideas have come from where? Philosophy. We know what rationalism is. Mechanism, determinism, reductionism, we'll see tomorrow. Okay, we'll see these things tomorrow and we will enter what Rene Descartes has to say. And then, who's the other person? John Locke. What does that person have to say? And then we enter the physiology. In physiology, who are the people? Johannes Müller, Hermann von Helmholtz, Ernst Weber, and Gustav Pechner. So what these people have done, how did it lay a foundation? So these things we are going to learn tomorrow's class. All right. Shall we leave? All right. Thank you. All good? So tomorrow starting, we are going to give a, whatever happens today, we are going to have a recap of that session in the starting 5 to 10 minutes. After that, we are going to enter the chapter. Okay. Anything you want to ask? Anything? Any other doubts? So of course, you are not going to get the doubts from what we learned today. Apart from this, anything you want to ask? Absolutely. How do you feel about the subject? Interesting? What do you think? It's going to be easy ride or a difficult ride? Difficult. So we are going to go pretty slow. Okay, especially the initial classes. Till we complete almost, I'm not going to take your second section initially. Okay, I'm not going to go into the second section. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to start with the first section, section 1. And I'll not go into section 2. I will go into section number cognitive psychology. कौन सा section है? Fourth section, ना? Third section, no? We'll go into cognitive psychology. So section 1, section 3. After that, we'll go into section 4. What is that? No, we'll not go into that as well. We'll go into section 6, abnormal psychology. Right? After that, we are going to come back to motivation, emotion. And somewhere in the middle, we are going to have those. Kaun sa? Section number 2. Section 2 will fix it somewhere in the between. Right? So that the boring chapters, let them come in between. Okay? All right. Thank you. Thank you. So what is the definition of philosophy? Definition of philosophy. Philosophy, not psychology. So how would you define it? It is the what? It is a discipline. It is a discipline. Discipline that uses reasoning, careful reasoning, to solve the fundamental questions related to life. These fundamental questions are related to knowledge, reality, and morality. Clear? Yes? So you can watch this video again, of course. By probably within next 2-3 hours, it will be recorded. No, this you are going to get immediately on that day itself. Okay. And as much as possible, try to attend offline. Online students, if you are online, you stay online. Offline students, if you are coming, you come offline. Do not develop a practice of missing the classes, because it's going to, I'm telling you, it's going to be very, very difficult. See, if you come to the class, if you sit here for 4 hours, let's suppose you are not here for 2 hours. You are here, but not here for 2 hours. Even in those 2 hours, you will be able to get at least 70-80% of the content. Right? That's a plus, is what I'm saying. Understood? Do not cultivate this habit of missing the classes. If you start once, it's going to become problematic. And sir, what if I miss, one class by chance? I miss the class. What to do about it? Always do this. If you miss a class, in that particular class, half a chapter is done, right? Rest half in today's class. Yesterday's class you have missed. You come to the class. If you're not able to understand, even then it is fine. Right? Out of the half of the chapter, you will be able to understand at least some 60% of it. It's fine. Rest 40% you can learn later. If you miss this class as well, the entire chapter is gone. To recover this chapter, you have to put a lot of efforts. You might say, sir, I will watch the recording. It's a gargantuan task. It is a very huge task to watch a recording. Okay. So always employ this tactic. If you have missed 10 classes, 10 classes is 10 into 3, 30 hours, let's suppose. How to deal with these 30 hours? Every single day, you have to dedicate 1 hour for the missed class, which means it will take 30 days for you to cover those 30 hours. Never commit a mistake of sitting one particular day and try to cover everything. With that, what happens? Whatever you are learning presently will be gone. So instead of maybe 1 hour per day, you increase it to 2 hours max. Not more than 2 hours for the missed classes. Okay. The amount of stuff you are going to lose when you adopt a method like 30 hours, 3 days, I will complete, sir. Whatever you are going to miss on those 3 days, that is going to be very, very, it's a big loss. These 30 hours, any which ways you have not learned probably because, in 3 days you have learned it. You have not learned it properly. Along with that, these 3 days also you have not learned properly. Net 0. So spread it across days. 2 hours max. Any missed class, 2 hours max. Sir, half the class was there. What to do? Rest half next day. Do not miss today. Okay. All right. Thank you.